Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Colton, and in today's video, I want to talk about a tool that I have been using to make digital copies of my instant film. Now, in the past, I have used my Canon photo scanner to scan in all of my Instax film, and that typically takes a bit of time to do. It also requires that I then put those photos into Lightroom to trim up the edges and also to clean up any kind of dust that's on the photos. And so it ends up just being a bit of a lengthy process, one of which is also not portable since it's specific to this studio. And so the other tool that I'll use is just taking my Instax picture and my phone and photographing it, trying to put it up against some cool background or something. But that doesn't really give you the individual photo itself. It gives you sort of the collective photo. And so recently I was hanging out with a friend and she showed me the Instax Up app, which she uses to photograph all of her instant film. And this app will allow you to get a cutout of just the instant film itself, or it'll allow you to put different color backdrops against the photo, even take different images and put them against the photo, or even the image that's in the photo itself as the background as well. So it is pretty diverse, and I want to show you guys a bit about how to scan in your images and then what all you can do to make that digital copy. And I also want to test if this will work for other types of instant film. I don't see why it wouldn't, but you never know. Maybe there's some sort of algorithm at play that only allows certain types of film to be photographed. So we're going to test a variety of Instax specific film, and then we're also going to test a Polaroid picture as well and see how that scans in. So one last thing worth calling out before we get to it is that I am not sponsored by Fujifilm or Instax or any other brand. So this is just a tool that I have been using that I wanted to share with each of you. But without further ado, let's scan a photo. So first thing we'll do is we'll open up the app itself. And then what we'll see when we open up, just a few things to note, we'll see a nice photo as far as the last one that we most recently did. We are going to scan this exact photo in again just to show you the process. And then we'll have the option for scanning a new photo or looking at the gallery of photos that we've already scanned. So we'll go ahead and select scan a photo. And then we'll have a few options across the top here for different types of Instax film that we might want to scan. So we have our mini, our square, our wide, and then an auto mode, which will detect that for us. Now, basically what this does is it creates a different crop in the camera for us to scan in those photos, but it's also going to inform the app what type and what ratios it should make the final product look like, and that is important. Now at the bottom there's going to be a few things to note. We can jump over to our gallery, we can also hit the scan button and start the process, or there's also a toggle feature to remove any reflections. This particular feature did not ever work for me in any of the times I tried it, so unfortunately I can't speak to the reflection. It just was too buggy. It just wouldn't work. I ended up getting rid of reflections the old school way by adjusting the way I was holding the camera and the instant film until I had a shot that didn't have any reflections in it. Not the best method, but the one that I used. Now, we also have options for how zoomed in we want to be as far as our scan goes. I also kind of had a hard time getting the tighter zoom to work, and so I just default to using the wider version or the wider camera. That way it works, because ultimately when I did the more zoomed in version, it just wouldn't ever really lock on to the photo. Not sure why, could just be my particular camera, but for this use case we'll use the wider lens. And then when you do go to scan the image, couple things to note. You definitely want to try to get the image as flat and straight on with the camera as possible, because then the app will be able to better recognize the photo, but also it's going to lay that photo flat in the digital version, if you have the photo at a big angle and it scans it, it's gonna take that warped version and then try to stretch it and make it look flat. So as best you can, make sure the image is as direct on with the camera as possible. And then also don't do like I've been doing and hold the image when you scan it, because then it's gonna cut your finger in and you're gonna have a digital copy that includes your finger. So if you don't want that, if you want a nice clean border on your image, I recommend trying to position this photo. It's a little bit harder to do, but positioning it in your hand to try to get it to where it doesn't have your finger actually on, but rather resting on your hand. Now, if you have the opportunity to lay this flat on a table and scan it that way, also a good method, but obviously reflections can come into play, and based on where your light is coming from, you might cast a shadow on it. So you kind of have to play around. Sometimes it's better to just sort of balance it in your hand and take a picture. Other times, if you have a little more flexibility with the lighting, you can lay it on a table and scan it that way. Now in this video, I'm scanning it on a white backdrop. I can't recommend that. Don't do that. The app will have a harder time identifying the actual Instax film. At least it did in my case. It couldn't tell that I was holding an Instax film, so it never really tried to lock on. So if you can do it on a different color backdrop, even like a gray or maybe a wooden table, something like that, where there's some contrast, then the app will be able to detect and better take that picture. So with all of those things in mind, we'll go ahead and scan this image in. Sometimes it will give you these green boxes around the image to let you know that it knows where the image is and it's ready to go. And in those times when you hit scan, it's just gonna lock on and do its thing really quick. If you're not getting that and you hit scan, sometimes it'll still get the picture, and then sometimes it'll just sit there and never lock on and never do anything, and it can be really, really annoying. And in those cases, I've just restarted the app or kind of repositioned how I'm holding the picture or the angle that I'm doing, how close, how far away, and that patience usually pays off where it will grab the photo. Once you do get the photo scanned, it's going to go into a preview mode with some different options. It will, by default, provide a scan where it has already chosen the corners, and most of the time it does a pretty good job with that, but oftentimes it won't quite get it right and you need to go in and manually change it. The one downside there is if you go in to adjust even just one corner, it's going to make you then do all four corners, because it's going to just say it's all or nothing. Either you let the app do auto corners or you go in and manually set them yourself. So that's a little bit annoying. I always recommend just doing the manual corners so that you get it exactly right. And as you go to make that adjustment, it will provide a zoomed in box that will let you see a closer detail of where exactly you're placing that corner. It's a little laggy and that can be a little challenging, so patience is highly recommended. But if you nail it just right, you'll get a really nice border around the photo, which will look like you scanned it in with a high-end scanner and not just some kind of phone app. So it does do a really good job once you set those. Now we also have the option to click edit, and that will bring up a menu where we can go in and make adjustments to the brightness, to the temperature, things like that. And there's also an auto button. In my experience, the auto button did a great job of, touching up the photo exactly how I would have done it. But you also do have the option to manually set all of those things. The ones that stand out the most to me are brightness and temperature, obviously being able to brighten it up if you're in a little bit darker space, or adjusting that temperature. If you took this photo outside or you took it inside with warmer light, it usually will nail the white balance, but if it doesn't, you have the ability to correct that, which is really helpful. And then there's also an option in here to set location, set your date when you took it, all that great stuff. Not something I really ever do, but an option if you like to set those things. And then of course we can download and share this image up in the top right. So we'll have a download option. When you click that, it'll take a moment and then it'll give you a text that doesn't really read quite correctly, I feel like. but that essentially lets you know that it has saved it to your phone. There's also an option to go to the share button where you can also download it, but you get more options. You have the option to also put different color backgrounds over the image, or just have only the Instax image with no background. You can also put in your own picture as a background, or you can use the picture that is in the instant film as the background behind the instant film picture, which is also kind of cool too. So a lot of options to really control and customize that end result, which is really nice. For me personally, I often like just downloading the picture itself with the white border and not having any other backgrounds involved, but the options are there to get fairly creative within app, which is really nice. Now, if we jump over to gallery, there are two gallery views. There's one view that's just a list of all the different photos you've taken with little thumbnail previews, and that is a fairly organized view, easy to see everything and grab what you want. Then there's also sort of like a tabletop view where all of the photos are sort of like piled as if you've dropped them onto a table or onto the floor or the grass, whatever, and you're sort of sifting through all of your photos. Definitely kind of gimmicky, but a little bit fun. It is also a bit gimmicky or glitchy when you're trying to organize them on your virtual tabletop. So I don't really recommend this as a very pleasant experience when you're trying to locate certain photos, but it's nice that it's there and you can decorate your virtual table however you like. But then if you need something specific, you can just jump over to the list view and be able to get exactly the photo that you want. Now, if you're taking images in the app and you're saying, I'm not seeing them in my pictures folder, where are they? It's because once you scan the image, you do still need to click download. So they'll all be stored in the Instax app, but you have to actually click download, or there's the option to click share and then click download in order to actually have them stored on your phone's physical pictures folder so that you can, print it out or post it online, whatever. So if you're having trouble locating them, it's probably because you didn't actually click download. Now, I also wanted to test this with a Instax Mini, so I went in and did the same process with an Instax Mini just to see how it worked, if it was any more smooth than doing the Instax Wide, or if the quality was any different. I found the process to be pretty much the same and the result to be pretty much the same. I did try clipping out the sort of like white sides of an instant film just to make a copy of the image itself only. And again, because you're using sort of the predetermined ratio, it will just sort of stretch that image so it doesn't look very good. Maybe there's a way to kind of finesse it and play with it a bit to get it just right, but I think at the end of the day, that's not really what this app is designed to do, and so it doesn't really do that very well. It is going to capture the borders or the frame of the Instax film as well. And then the final thing is, as I promised, I wanted to try seeing if one of the Polaroid pictures that I've taken would also be able to be scanned in this app. And the answer, in short, is yes, you can definitely do it. What I found is that when I went through the process of scanning, it would grab out the image from the Polaroid, but it would not include the Polaroid borders until I went to adjust edges or adjust borders, and I dragged it to include those edges, and then I was able to actually get the full Polaroid picture in there as well. And I thought it looked pretty good. So definitely if you have some Polaroid pictures that you also want to use this app for, it looks like it works, which is really awesome. And mostly to be expected, but you never know in this digital age if there's some sort of algorithm or way to determine, and they can exclude other brand stuff, but luckily that's not the case in this example. And that is pretty much it. So that is the Instax Up app. It's definitely a great tool. Again, I'm not sponsored by it, but this is going to be my premier way to scan in any Instax or even just instant film in general. It works pretty well. There are some glitches. You do have to be a little bit patient from time to time, but overall, it seems to be a pretty great app. If you enjoyed this video, do give me a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button. I do post a video every week, and that will keep you in the know for when the next video drops. But for now, I'm Colton. I'll see you in the next one.